All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass podcast. My name is Rick Butler. To my left, that is Ryan Shumpert. It is past 1 o'clock in the morning, but we are back in Neyland Stadium. A little bit of an extended trip away. I'll tell you what, it's nice to be a little bit closer to our own respective homes coming after a late game on a Saturday night. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Yeah, no, that makes me feel better, too, just thinking about that. Thinking about last week, we were 11 or 12 hours away from home when we were recording this podcast at similar time, probably a little bit earlier. All the post-game stuff probably went quicker last week given the loss. But, no, doing well, and certainly an ugly win for the Vols over Florida, but Tennessee hasn't had enough wins over Florida to not enjoy the ugly ones.
That's right. You know, we will get into a lot more of the broad topics, I think, in the second half of this podcast. We're going to start with our game breakdown, our game reactions, but you're right. There's a lot of broad conversation to get into, and it has to deal with the history between Tennessee and Florida and what this game means for both teams heading into the season. Tennessee obviously still has goals in front of them. They were playing for a little bit more, at least when it comes to wanting to accomplish things later on in the year instead of just kind of survive their season like Florida's trying to do right now. But a monumental win for Tennessee. The Volunteers get it done. They defeat their SEC rival Florida by a score of 23-17 in an overtime victory. Dylan Sampson, the MVP of the game, he punches in his third and final touchdown of the night in that overtime frame to give Tennessee the win. Ryan, it is late right now. We are recording our podcast. Of course, if you missed our instant reaction from the field after the game, you can go and check that out over at the Rocky Top Insider YouTube account. Ryan, we sit here about an hour, about 90 minutes past game time. What's kind of still rattling around in your head from this game as we sort of break down our reactions to what we saw here on the field and just a crazy Saturday night here in Knoxville?
I think game specifically, it was that we saw a lot of what we've seen the last few weeks for Tennessee continue on, or at least in SEC play so far, where the defense was really good, the offense really struggled. And I think there's a lot of negative with the offense struggling, certainly, and I'm sure we'll get into more of it as we go on, but a lot of the same issues that have plagued them continued to plague them tonight. I thought we might see not just some sort of offensive explosion, but Tennessee look a lot more competent offensively getting back at home. And as I think I said, at least on the podcast in the middle of the week, I might have said it after the Arkansas game too. I know I wrote it. Usually it's never quite as bad as it looks, and it's never quite as good as it looks on the other end. But we saw a lot of issues from Tennessee's offense. So I think just the continuation of what we've seen, this is a flawed football team, but they have some strengths that are good enough to win. And then kind of on that note, just it felt like the opposite of so many Tennessee Florida games over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Where Tennessee finds a way to lose. It was a little bit different. It's not complete 1-1 because the late touchdown from Florida on 3rd and 19 was like so vintage how Tennessee would lose a Tennessee-Florida game.
It did feel like
so that part was flipped, but it just felt like Florida was, for most of the night, the better team, or they had so many scoring opportunities that it didn't capitalize on. And then Tennessee did just enough to find a way to win. And, certainly that's worth something.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
it is. And I don't know if we were expecting. I certainly wasn't. I don't think you were. I don't think a lot of the people who are watching this was. You get to that halftime score of the 3-0 and it feels like deja vu. I even think you wrote that as one of the headlines in your takeaways today.
Yeah.
You were just kind of sitting there saying, man, what's going on? And one of the conversations that we went into this game was, what was that game last weekend against Arkansas? Was it just hey, you got beat on the road in a night game in a hostile environment? It's SEC football. If you don't come to play, you might not always win. Or was it maybe indicative of bigger problems on the field with this team? Tennessee, you're sitting there at halftime, and you're like, hey, 3-0, what is going on here? The defense kind of still held them up, but the offense still continued. Just couldn't really get anything going. But a little bit differently from last week, Tennessee was able to give enough second half offensive output to get the advantage in the game. Go back to that Arkansas game. Tennessee scored the 2 straight touchdowns coming out of halftime, but then they fell right back into that mode of Tennessee can't get anything in the red zone. They can't get anything into the end zone, so on and so forth. Let me, give me your thoughts on this, just sort of this game compared to last one a little bit. But I thought that Tennessee was at least able to put some more points. But remember, you talked about last game being sort of Tennessee's defense did a lot to keep them in that game. Ultimately, the offense couldn't do enough. The dam kind of broke on the defense. Is that the same way that you saw this game? The dam I don't know. I'm getting a little convoluted as I say this, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I think so. And I don't think the dam broke for Tennessee's defense. I mean, obviously, again, the same situation. They gave up a touchdown in the last, this one was the last 45 seconds. It was whatever it was, 90 seconds, 2 minutes last week. I didn't really necessarily feel the exact same, but it did feel a lot of the same way in that Tennessee's offense could not do anything to help them in the fourth quarter. I mean, twice Tennessee had the ball with a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter, and they got no first downs. They could not do anything to help the defense. And now this is all offenses and special teams too. Rare instances twice on where Tennessee did not have very good punt coverage. I think Florida had one drive started. Tennessee's like 48 was 3 and out. They had to punt, or maybe one. I think it was maybe one first down on the first play, and then 3 and out, and there was a big sack. So they, it was 4th and 20, something like that. And then the next one, a long return. Florida had that drive started at the 31-yard line, the drive they ended up scoring on, and kind of the same situation where they got one first down quickly, went backwards, and then obviously on that one they hit the long pass. So, no, I don't think the dam broke is what went wrong for the defense, but I do think for the offense there was a lot of the same frustration. And once they were playing with a lead in the fourth quarter, they could not go – not only could they not go get a kill shot, not only could they not go get just a points that would essentially put the game away, they couldn't even get a couple first downs and run the clock and give the offense any sort of, or give the defense any sort of rest on the sideline.
Yeah, any sort of break there. You wrote about this in your post-game takeaways article. 43 straight games for Tennessee in the Josh Heupel era, the first 43 games, I should say, scoring a first-half point. Well, now you're looking at back-to-back games where Tennessee is held scoreless in the first half. Again, they did find their way a little bit more in the second half. But again, it was just it was wild to see that. And again, you thought maybe coming back home, Tennessee would have a little bit more juice to them. But it was a struggle in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, it was in so many ways.
They moved the ball, but
yes, in so many ways, the first half was very similar to Arkansas. And I think mostly, even though Tennessee's offense scored no points, it felt more like that with the defense, and that Florida had so many scoring chances that they didn't capitalize on. One turnover on downs in scoring range. Arkansas had 2 last week. The James Pierce makes one of the biggest plays of the game, stripping Graham Mertz to the 1-yard line on a QB sneak and recovering it. And then obviously the debacle to end the first half when Florida gets sacked on 3rd down with no timeouts, has to run its field goal unit on there, 12 men on the field. You guys watched the game. You guys know all of that. Offensively, they moved it better, but still a lot of similarities too. I mean, I think, I had as my first key to the game was Tennessee's offense to start fast. They'd struggled in their first 3 games against Power 4 opponents. Their first 2 drives of those games, so 6 drives total. They had 3 and outs, 1 touchdown. That was NC State. They hadn't started well. They played so badly last week. They felt like they needed some momentum. And they had a real nice drive going down the field, hit some pass plays, and then 3rd and 1 at the 23-yard line, fumbled exchange between Nico and Dylan Sampson. He turned the ball over.
Yep.
I think Tennessee's 3rd drive of the game, and there was one similar to this at Arkansas, where I think Tennessee got it to maybe 1st and 10 Arkansas's 38-yard line, sacked 3 straight times. There were holding calls. Just a complete side note, I've never seen a team hold more when the quarterback gets out of the pocket. I swear, if Nico not a design play, but if he scrambles out of the pocket, Tennessee holds literally every single time, it feels like. That was probably a little dramatic, but it happens a lot. So all that to say, it just felt like really innocent offense the whole game. It felt like they just never completely in sync.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't feel as bad as it was last week against Arkansas, but at the end of the day, he scored 17 points at home against 17 points in regulation, and at home against a not very good defense. And it just felt like 1 or 2 things, just a lot of times kept them from ever getting in a rhythm. They couldn't connect. Holding, sacks, untimely turnovers, a couple drops tonight. Nico overthrowing a couple deep balls that would have been touchdowns if they were put on the money. Just so many little things were just a little bit off for Tennessee, and it led to another poor offense performance.
Yeah, there was enough room for error that's certainly opportunities that I think better teams will take advantage of later on down the road. So Tennessee survives this game against Florida tonight, but there's still plenty of things to work on. What are those things? Well, Josh Heupel talked about it after the game. He said, hey, look, is our passing game where we want it to be right now? Obviously not. But he also said that he doesn't believe that it's as far away as maybe some others do. Certainly an area that Tennessee has got to continue to improve on because we know what this passing game does for the offense. But also, the running game. I think there's areas where the running game can be a little bit better, but Dylan Sampson is a phenom for this Tennessee team that is invaluable to what they want to do. A guy that you can give the ball in a lot of different kind of situations, a guy who is going to power through. He uses his shiftiness to his advantage. He uses his speed to his advantage. Again, there's more improvement that Tennessee has to be made, but that running game is it's hard to say. It's not the engine for Tennessee's offense right now, as that passing game just kind of continues to sputter. It's found some success, a handful of instances today, not enough to continue to be consistent. Dylan Sampson was that consistent piece.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's the best player on Tennessee's offense, by a long shot, or maybe Cooper Mays is close, but and I think the thing that stands out for Sampson has been, to me, super impressive is just how physical he's been and how well he's held up. Tennessee's been very much a running back by committee team under Josh Heupel. He continues to basically be the bell cow, and you just don't really see that much in modern college football.
Yeah.
The sport's just kind of moved away from that in the last 10 years, as has the NFL, so it's not just a college thing. But to carry the ball 27 times at his frame, and I don't have all his numbers in front of me. I don't think he has had 27 carries at any point in the season, but he has carried the ball 20-plus times last week and in the Oklahoma game. Not sure if he did at NC State a lot, but he's carrying the ball a lot. And to not be a massive guy and to be a real small guy when he got into Tennessee, obviously he's bulked up and he's a lot bigger now. It's just super impressive, and knock on wood that he's able to stay healthy the rest of the season. But it's been really impressive, and now I believe at 15 rushing touchdowns on the season. And if he can avoid that injury, I think I'd be pretty shocked if he doesn't become Tennessee's Tennessee's single season rushing touchdown record holder.
That was actually one of my bold predictions at the beginning of the year.
Was it really? I don't think it was.
Well, it wasn't James Pierce sack numbers. No. I think it was Dylan Sampson. I think that's what it was. I don't think it was the James Pierce sack number. I think it was Dylan Sampson touchdown number.
Mine were bad. Mine was, actually I say this. Mine was Ethan Davis, second on the team in receiving touchdowns. He only has one, but goodness knows Tennessee doesn't throw for any touchdowns, so he's still alive. The other one was, I think, 13-plus interceptions. They're not looking great there, so mine aren't looking good.
I lied. That wasn't one of my bold predictions.
I was pretty confident it wasn't.
Let's continue to talk about, before we move to the defensive side of the ball, I want to talk about what I thought was the big turning point in the game for Tennessee. I'll try to keep this succinct. Third quarter of the game, Tennessee is down 3-0 to Florida. They've been down 3-0 for a while. At some point, about halfway through the third quarter, Florida scores a touchdown to go up 10-0. Graham Mertz connects with his tight end for a 13-yard touchdown. 4-minute drive, but it went 9 plays, 92 yards. That's one of those kind of drives where I'm thinking to myself, all right, is Tennessee going to respond to this? Not even as much how is Tennessee going to respond, just simply is Tennessee going to respond? They had troubles throughout the game. That was I don't want to say it was a deflating moment for the defense, but hey, this is a really talented defense. You let the Florida offense go down again, nearly 100 yards to go punch in the first touchdown of the game. I wondered if that was going to be a moment that kind of took Tennessee off their rocker. Instead, Tennessee's offense comes back out. They go 11 plays down the field, 75 yards over 4.5 minutes. Dylan Sampson punches in his second touchdown of the game on a 4th-and-1 call, by the way.
First touchdown of the game.
Yes, you're right. First touchdown of the game. On a 4th-and-1 call, nonetheless, it was a 6-yard touchdown. Max Gilbert punches through the point after. DJ Lagway comes back onto the field for the Florida offense. First play of the drive, he throws an interception to Arian Carter. A really nice play made by Carter there. Then Tennessee gets the ball back in advantageous position. Tennessee goes 3 yards, 4 plays. Maybe would have liked to see a little bit more extended of a drive after that, but Tennessee was already in scoring range as well. They get a field goal from, again, Max Gilbert. That was actually when Nico, he missed Squirrel White on that third down passing attempt. But again, you have Max Gilbert to go back in, kick the 35-yarder. That's how Tennessee closes out about the last 5 minutes of that third quarter. And again, it was all in the response off of a Florida touchdown. After that moment, after that momentum swing, that's when I kind of started to look at the landscape of things and say, okay, you know what? That was a really impressive response. I don't know what this fourth quarter is going to look like, But now at least Tennessee set themselves up to win in the fourth quarter. They didn't win in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Florida came back in the fourth quarter, but they still gave themselves enough opportunity to get to that fifth quarter, if you will, the overtime period, if you will. So I thought that you go back to those last 5 minutes or so of the third quarter. It's hard to put into words just how important that was for Tennessee. I felt like they got a little bit of their juju back, a little bit of their mojo back. And again, I mean, that's a 10-point swing, especially coming after that Florida touchdown in response. That to me was the do or die moment of the game for Tennessee.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was. And the thing I'll say too I'll start kind of in order.
Mm-hmm.
I think that how deflating that touchdown was from also the standpoint of Florida goes 3-and-out to start the first half. Tennessee has its best field position of the day, like right around midfield. I think they ran for 6 yards maybe on first down, and then they still go 3-and-out punt. And for Florida to go 91 yards, it's just like the offense feels so dead. So, yes, you're absolutely right. Had to get points on that drive. And to me, really needed to get a touchdown.
The Tennessee's drive before was 3 plays, 6 yards. Drive stalls out before Tennessee could reach midfield. I mean, it was not great.
No, not at all. And so, Tennessee ran the ball more on that drive, but really most of the damage was done through the air. 16 yards to Chaz Nimrod on the first play. Chris Brazell caught a 23-yard pass. And I'll tell you, will be a very overlooked play in this game. And I'm going to overlook it too because I don't think it's going to make my 5 critical moments tomorrow. Maybe the drive will be part of it, and I'll give it a special shout out. But Tennessee's 2nd and 10, Florida's 19-yard line. It's a little swing pass to Dylan Sampson. Receivers blocked poorly. I don't know who it was that missed it. It was blown up. Dylan Sampson breaks the tackle, gets 8 yards in the 3rd and 2, 1-yard run on 3rd down, and you said what happened on 4th down. So that was a very important play of the game, and then maybe the most important aspect of the part of the game or maybe moment of the game is when Graham Mertz got injured on that touchdown pass, early after that touchdown pass. DJ Lagway, who was obviously he's playing every 3 drives as Florida had done.
He was playing well.
Yeah, playing solid. And he comes in and throws that interception on the first play. So that was a huge swing, for Tennessee, and to go from, again, feeling like they're all but dead to tie game. Now you leave something out there, like you said. Not being able to get a touchdown, certainly just a massive swing, and one where Tennessee was right there back in it.
One that Tennessee needed, and again, I could not have imagined Tennessee going into that fourth quarter down 10-0, especially after coming off the week that you did last week against Arkansas too. I felt like this was going to be a moment where we learned a lot about this team. Not only was this game in its totality something where we learned a lot about this team, but I really thought that moment, that time stretch, that time frame, if you will, in the game, especially where it was and what Florida was doing at the time, I felt like that was going to tell us a lot about Tennessee. Now, do we know exactly what this team is yet? No, I still don't think so. They do a lot of things that kind of make you scratch your head or at least just look around and kind of try to figure it out. But what we learned about Tennessee, to me, in that moment was that it is a team that can be resilient. It's a team that can fight through adversity. You're down 10 with the third quarter winding down in front of your home crowd. A crowd that was getting a little bit restless at times, I felt like as well. Tennessee needed to make something happen there. And in some ways, against all odds, they did. That 75-yard drive, that's nice. Really? Tennessee hadn't put that together at any other point in the game so far.
Didn't the rest of the way. They had another touchdown drive, but very good field position off of a short punt and a nice return for Tremont McCoy. And another touchdown obviously comes in overtime when they started at the 25-yard line.
Yeah.
Really the only full drive Tennessee put together all day, and it was at a time when it had to have it.
It did. And then, you get to that next drive, I guess, that closes out the third quarter technically for Tennessee. And 4 plays, 3 yards. That obviously is not very productive. I'm sure Tennessee would have wanted more. Nico Imaliava misses Squirrel White in a crossing route across the middle to get to 4th down. But Max Gilbert is able to punch it through. And that's what having that aggressive defense, obviously that turnover from Jamon McCoy, it's what it set Tennessee up to do. And Tennessee's offense didn't, it didn't need to carry them a substantial way down the field just to get in that scoring range. They were pretty much already in it. You would have liked to see Tennessee do a little bit more. But again, you had Florida on their heels at that point. Tennessee just kind of kept pushing in that direction, and it set themselves up in a way to be competitive for the fourth quarter.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of to your same overarching point there, say the same thing about Tennessee responding to giving up the touchdown to tie the game with the last 30 seconds. I mean, Tennessee's defense gives up just the game they'd play well, gave up a back-breaking 27-yard touchdown, get to the overtime period, and forces Florida to go backwards, forces Florida into a 47-yard field goal attempt that obviously is missed. And then, again, Tennessee, they didn't leave it up to the kicker. I like the play calling from Josh Heupel. He's a little more aggressive. I think the first one was a designed one. They got it out to Holden Stays kind of on a play action out in the flat. Just got a couple yards. Then a good Dylan Sampson run. And I think the last one might have been an RPO. Quick pass out to Dante Thornton, and that got Tennessee to the 3-yard line. So that was a good way to finish it. Just a good response on a night that they hadn't played well. And it really, after that sequence you're talking about, Tennessee had the momentum the rest of the way at that point until that late Florida touchdown, and they responded well to that. One last thing on the receivers, because I don't think we're going to get it back around to it. Christian Brazil, I thought played a good game today, 3 for 49. By far, to me, his best game of the season. Want to see more deep shots to him, because that's the whole thing we heard about him, is that he's really good, kind of jump ball, high pointing ball situation. He made a really nice catch down the sideline that he got pushed out of bounds on it, so he didn't haul it in, but went up and got it one-on-one. I'd like to see more from him. And then Tennessee's receivers as a whole, the 3 guys injured, they're all able to play. Squirrel White seemed fine. Squirrel White had a solid game too, for the most part. Brew McCoy was out there a ton, but I don't even think they threw a ball his way. He had one jet sweep, not even a target for Brew McCoy tonight. It felt like he was almost a decoy maybe with that hand injury. I don't know. And then Dante Thornton played a little bit, but not as many snaps as he usually does. And that catch we were just talking about in overtime was the only catch.
You know what? I do actually remember that one sort of target. It was maybe kind of like a 50% target where I felt like two of Tennessee receivers went for the ball down here, and I couldn't tell who was even being thrown to. I didn't have a great angle from the sideline. But that is the only time I have a good, vivid memory of Brew McCoy getting something thrown his way. All right. It is obviously late. It's 1:30 in the morning. We got a couple more things to talk about. I want to get to the defense, and then I want to get to broad points overall about this game. Welcome to the party, James Pierce Jr. Phenomenal game for him. We'll get into that here in a minute. Has a forced fumble in a very timely situation. Graham Mertz trying to punch in the 1-yard touchdown score. That was one of those moments where he looked at Tennessee's defense and he said, boy, did they bend a little bit, but they didn't break because they did have a playmaker who could come in and make a game-defining play. James Pierce did that in that moment. But he had a phenomenal game. He was relentless. He looks like one of those players that is as daunting as he was sort of projected before the season, especially when you look at the next level as well. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, he had a great game in Tennessee's. It's starting really. I think it's defense tackles as a whole. At least its main 3 defense tackles played really well tonight. Amari Thomas felt like he was in the backfield a ton. Bryson Easton maybe had to play the game on that screen pass. And overtime, I think it was 2nd and 15. His awareness on that play recognition was really impressive. Kind of runs out into the flat, blows it up for a 5-yard loss. And then Omar Norman-Lott, who continues to be the sneaky great pass rusher for this team, had a sack and a half tonight. So
relentless. Those
guys were really good. And just another really good performance from the defense, which also weird factoid. And I'm not positive of this because I'm not positive about Chattanooga. But for sure, every game besides Chattanooga, and I think this is the case against Chattanooga, the backup quarterback has finished the game for every team Tennessee's played.
Okay, you mentioned that during the game, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think your assessment got it.
It's for sure all of them besides that. Because Grayson McCall got benched. Or no, Grayson McCall got hurt. Yes, and C.J. Baxwell? I don't know. That doesn't matter. Kent State went to the backup quarterback. They kind of had a 2-quarterback system, somewhat similar to Tennessee or the Florida anyway. Oklahoma benched Jackson Arnold for Michael Hawkins, and then last week Taylor Green got hurt in the 4th quarter of that game. So kind of wild.
It really is.
For sure.
It really is. Then I know another play that you wanted to get to mentioning today was number 3 for the defense, and that would be Jermon McCoy. Look, it's a guy who's made a couple of big plays in the last few weeks this season so far with Tennessee. When Tennessee brought him in, you were looking at Jermon McCoy as, hey, look, this guy could be potentially a number 1 type of cornerback for Tennessee in an SEC sort of slate. He's been attacked this. I say attacked, not as like a media kind of way. People have gone after him. They try to make big throws on him, but he's come up clutch in big moments from time to time. Had another big game tonight. I think he's really been solid at what he's doing for Tim Banks' defense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And he's the guy that you can truly trust in in one-on-one coverage, or man-to-man one-on-one coverage, and great coverage on some deep balls. Obviously broke up the fourth down slant that Florida went to in a big spot when they were down by 7, I think early in the fourth quarter at that point. So he's really, really good. I thought the secondary as a whole was good tonight. Christian Charles, shout out to him. He played a lot of snaps.
7 tackles.
He was really good. And it's not perfect. Christian Harrison, another guy that was available. I don't think he played a snap tonight. Jalen McMurray, we talked about it after Jordan Thomas had that injury in fall camp. Jalen McMurray, a guy that could potentially get some run at star. It was really him and Boo Carter rotating there. Boo Carter had a sack. He continues to look good rushing the passer. Not just a phenomenal night from the secondary, but I will say, on a night that was really good for Tennessee's defense, and we talked about Florida left a lot of points on the field. The run defense probably had its worst game of the day. Not that they were terrible by any means, but gave up 138 yards. And again, it's 40 carries, a couple sacks worked in there. It's not like it was bad, but they were more vulnerable there than they have been. And Florida was in less obvious passing downs, and I felt like Tennessee's pass defense was pretty solid. And certainly McCoy, the guy in that room.
Yeah. One last thing on a player note. Keenan Peely goes down with an injury during the game. Truthfully, a big loss for Tennessee. He was I was impressed by what he's been able to do through Tennessee's first 5 games or so. But you can tell that he's a leader of this defense. He's obviously the green dot guy. He's the one talking, or not talking, but getting the communication through the helmet. He goes down in that game. If you were at the game, maybe some of the keen-eyed fans who were in the stands, or maybe they were seeing on social media, he did return to Tennessee's sideline. He did have crutches, though, and a brace on his right knee. Josh Heupel did not have any extra information about the injury after the game, but as we were talking about on the instant reaction video, it's one of those ones where you can kind of assume maybe where the direction it's headed. When Josh Heupel was asked about Keenan Peely's injury, he did not give any sort of updates on it, but he did go through about a 60 to 90 second sort of speech about Keenan Peely and how much he loves and values him on the team. I even think that one of his more or less quotes was, he represents what being a volunteer is, as good or if not better than anybody else. Those are some things that you would say to indicate that you might not see him back on the field today. We obviously wish Keenan Peely the best, but that is a big loss for Tennessee's defense coming out of this game.
Yeah, and we'll probably get official or for sure word probably Sunday, if not Monday. So stay tuned to the site for all that. But yeah, and that happened first drive of the game, very early in the game. Tennessee did play a lot of 4-3 tonight, so a lot of linebackers on the field. Florida runs a lot of pre-snap motion, throws a lot of short passes. So it was a big blow, and I think it was pretty obvious that it affected Tennessee. So hopefully he's not lost for a season or for an extended amount of time. But in the case that he is, it's going to be tough for Tennessee to overcome that. The
lights here at Neyland Stadium have gone off in the middle of our recording, which has made me a little bit tired as we're approaching 2 o'clock here in the morning. I've got some broad thoughts. Do you have anything else on the game that you want to maybe break down here on this show before we move into a broad topic?
Another factoid.
Okay.
For years.
I love factoids.
For years, it was always the team that ran for more yards won this game in this series. In the regulation, 132 to 132 rushing yards. They were dead tied.
Wow.
Florida on that 3rd and 20 ran for 6 yards. Tennessee had an 8-yard run from Dylan Sampson and then a 2 and a 1-yard run to win the game. So Tennessee ends up winning the rushing battle 143 to 138. I thought Tennessee would easily get to 150 in this game. They did not, but they do end up winning the rushing battle, and it proves to be the difference in this series once again.
Yes, it did. All right, so one of the things that I talked about on the instant reaction show on the field afterwards, but one of the things that we were talking about here coming into this game this week was that a lot of the times Tennessee, Florida, we know the history of it. We know the pageantry behind it. A lot of the times because of where it is located in the schedule, so we're one of those early September games, it's often been a season-defining game for Tennessee. This game a little bit later than it's normally been, but after a loss to Arkansas last week, Tennessee is back in the same position against Florida, a season-defining game against a big rival, one that's had your number for, I believe, 17 out of the last 19 years. Now, was this game can we define Tennessee's season by this win over Florida? there's still a lot of football to be played. I don't think we can do that just quite yet. We need to look back in hindsight about that. But what this game does, what it does define, is that Tennessee's now got their opportunities still out there in front of them. A loss in this game, before even reaching Alabama and Georgia, if Tennessee had 2 losses, you can kiss the playoffs goodbye. That just wasn't something that was going to happen. That loss to Arkansas was a hindrance, was a roadblock in that process, but that only elevated the stakes for the rest of these games. Sure enough, it was Florida that was going to be that next game afterwards. Again, did this define Tennessee's season? We don't know just quite yet. But what it does do is it allows them to take on Alabama next week and still have the shot at the playoffs alive down the road. It gives them an opportunity to face those next games after Alabama, depending on how that one goes, and still give themselves wiggle room to those accomplishments that they want to finish on later in the season. So, again, for a team that was coming off of a loss to Arkansas last week, I don't know if Florida was the team that you wanted to play, because Florida's not a team that's been scared of Tennessee in the last 20 years. Florida is a team that can go into Tennessee's house, that can beat them in their own house, but they're not afraid of Tennessee. It's been a long time since Tennessee has last beaten Florida in back-to-back home games. You got to go back to before both of us were even born, by a pretty good stretch, even if that.
For me, at least, yeah. You're an old man.
Still, well, a little.
No,
but still even 4 to 6 years, for me. It was back in 1990 and 1992. Well, Tennessee's now done that here under Josh Heupel. So, again, I think maybe I'm rambling a little bit now. But, again, Tennessee-Florida, it's a season-defining rivalry. This was a big opportunity for Tennessee. They capitalized on that opportunity, and now there's still goals out in front of them this season. Will they squander that? Will they chase them down? That's all still to be seen. But this wouldn't be a conversation had Tennessee lost this game to their rival here tonight. So, for the resiliency that went into it, for Tennessee playing a lot of this game down, certainly having a halftime deficit that reminded you of a loss last week, to then be down by a 10-point margin at some point in the third quarter, for Tennessee to make all these things happen and to come back and find this win in overtime. Season goals are still on the table for Tennessee because of that.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee is just a game Tennessee had to win, and you're having a whole different conversation if they don't find a way to win this one. So, and I guess the thing I would add on too, Tennessee is a very flawed football team right now. But a lot of the harder games on the schedule, I mean, just a lot of flawed football teams on Tennessee's schedule.
Yeah.
Alabama has their own set of issues. I'm still extremely skeptical Tennessee will win at Georgia, but they did not look great.
Did Kentucky win?
Kentucky lost to Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt is by far the third hardest game on Tennessee's schedule. Heck, I might be at the same level of thinking Tennessee's chances to beat Alabama are about as good as they are to beat Vanderbilt right now. It's about how I feel. So a lot still out there for Tennessee. They got to get a lot better, but like you said, they're still in the fight.
No doubt about it. All right. It is 1:40 in the morning, and I got to be honest, my computer is it's on its last life here, as the charger is with my phone. Most things are dead here at 1:40 in the morning, just like my energy. One more thing I wanted to mention, though. Fourth quarter song. What a plot twist. I didn't know that was coming. Sounded like maybe some of the rumblings around me. It sounded like maybe some people know. I don't know if maybe they were just kind of, playing into that a little bit once it started. But Tennessee officially changes the Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks. They put on Morgan Wallen's The Way I Talk. You had a pretty good breakdown and an assessment of this song.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a country music hater like
No,
yourself.
I'm not a country music hater. Whoa. That is a wild accusation. They went for first of all, I love Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks is fantastic.
He hates new country.
Yeah.
The bro-ish country.
Yeah, for the most part. I do like Zach Bryan, though. Okay. They went from a very bad fourth quarter song to just like a bad fourth quarter song. So,
wait. I gave you credit for your take. You switched your take on me. That's not the one I liked.
What was the one you liked?
The one that you liked was The Way I Talk. It's a fantastic sing-along.
It's a fine song.
It's great for the car.
That was your take. I don't know why you're throwing that take on me.
I'd like to give myself credit for a pretty good take then. It's a phenomenal sing-along song. It's great in the car. It's great in the shower. It's great with some buddies. Maybe if you're at a bar. But a fourth quarter hype song when it's a 10-10 game, it still just didn't feel like it was the song to get everybody riled up. If we could have Copperhead Road, maybe just I've been screaming that for years now. It's never going to happen, but
they did it one time, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
So too.
Yeah, I don't know why you tried to turn that take on me. My
I
only
thought
take.
it was good.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess that's why
I'm not a huge fan of that song. That song's fine. I'm not a huge Morgan Wallen guy in general. But yeah, no, I mean, Friends in Low Places, you're literally singing about how down bad you are.
Brutal. It's brutal.
You're like, we are so down bad. You won't
Me and all
believe
my
it.
friends.
And don't get me wrong.
Oh.
Friends in Low Places is a great song overall.
Yeah.
Much better song than is it The Way I Talk, The Way I Walk?
The way, yeah, one of those.
One of those. It's a better song than
way
that.
I talk.
But the Morgan Wallen song, even though it's not good for a fourth quarter song, it's better than Friends in Low Places. So, baby steps, upgrades. Getting a little bit better. And a little bit better.
We've got a ton of content.
Just play Mo Bamba.
Yeah, maybe.
At least it would be a little more hype.
It'd give us a little bit more room in the press
just
box.
Fully co-op Dixieland Delight. You already are. Tennessee's already
bring back Lil Jon. I agree.
Tennessee's already trying to claim Dixieland Delight as its own anyway. Just fully steal it. Just steal it. Yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, just do it. That's going to wrap it up from us today at Neyland Stadium. Ton of content for you coming after this game. Ton over on RockyTopInsider.com by the time that you're listening to this. If you are watching this video on YouTube, make sure to head over to our channel, wherever you found this, to go find post-game interviews with Josh Heupel and a bunch of the Tennessee players. Then, of course, Ryan and I recorded about a 15-minute instant reaction on the field after the game. That was a good bit different from this podcast right here. So make sure you go ahead and listen to that. Otherwise, make sure you're just checking out RockyTopInsider.com each and every day. If you want to follow Ryan, you can do that at rshump00. If you want to follow myself, you can do that at Rick_Butler. That is just RIC with no K. Otherwise, it's good to be back in Neyland Stadium.
Yep.
It's good to have a football game in Knoxville instead of somewhere else that we got to travel back to tomorrow. And it's certainly nice to do another game with you here today. But it was Tennessee that survives. Number 8 Tennessee defeats Florida 23-17 in overtime. Tennessee lives to survive, or lives to tell another day. That's not the right phrase.
Lives to fight another day.
Lives to fight another day, to tell another tale. And that tale will be told next Saturday as the third Saturday in October rivalry comes to Knoxville, comes to Rocky Top as Tennessee hosts rival Alabama right here in Neyland Stadium at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We will catch you for that game next week. Otherwise, be good. Be checking out RockyTopInsider.com each and every day. We'll see you back for the next one.